Ladies and gentlemen, stop. Just stop. Not just with your feet, but with your spirit, because when you stop to her, something sacred begins. In the streets of ancient Jerusalem, Jesus stopped. He stopped when others passed by. He stopped for a woman bleeding for 12 years. He stopped for a woman caught in sin. He stopped for the broken, the shamed, the forgotten, and when you stop to her, you are walking in his footsteps. But here's what she thinks when you stop. She thinks, will he see me, or just what he wants from me? She wonders, will he listen to the echo of my silence, or just fill it with his own? Because for centuries her story was written in the margins of history. Her tears fell unnoticed into the soil of forgotten prayers, but when you stop to her, not just as a body, not just as a presence, but as a person, as a soul, you become a mirror of how God sees her. Do you hear me? This is not about flirtation, it is about revelation. She is the daughter of Eve, but not in her fall, in her promise. She is the daughter of Sarah, Rebecca, Ruth, Deborah, and Esther, warriors in silence, prophets in humility, bearers of life and fire. So when you stop to her, when you truly see her, she thinks, maybe I am seen, maybe I am still worth the gaze that doesn't want to take, but to understand. And she thinks, maybe there are still men who know what sacred means. You are not called to impress her. You are called to honor her, and in that honoring, you rise, because when you see the image of God in her, you begin to recover the image of God in you. So stop. Stop running past hearts. Stop talking over silent songs. Stop missing the divine in front of you. And when you do, you just might hear what she's been waiting her whole life to say. Amen. When you stop to her, when you slow down enough to actually see her, you are not merely observing a person. You are encountering a reflection of the divine. In her existence, in her presence, in her soul, there resides something sacred, something woven into the very design of creation. She is not a coincidence. She is not a background character in your story. She is not here to be passed by, categorized, or overlooked. When you stop and your eyes truly open, you begin to perceive that she bears the fingerprints of God. She carries within her the echo of Eden, the whisper of a garden where woman was not an afterthought, but the culmination. There's a mystery embedded in womanhood that our modern age, for all its noise, still fails to grasp. Woman was created last, not as a footnote, but as a crescendo. Man was dust breathed into life, but woman, she was carved from living flesh, taken not from the head to rule, nor the feet to be trampled, but from the side, near the heart, under the arm to be loved, to be protected, and to walk as an equal in purpose and glory. She was created not to be hidden in shadow, but to radiate something of the beauty, compassion, and strength of God Himself. When you stop to her, when you actually pause to see, not just look, you are seeing a reflection of something eternal. You are not just seeing her eyes, her shape, her presence. You are encountering intention, divine intention. You are standing before the craftsmanship of the Almighty. And if your spirit is awake, even a little, you'll know you are on holy ground. God, throughout Scripture, is a God who sees. He saw Hagar in the wilderness, the first person in the Bible to give him a name, El Roy, the God who sees me. He saw Lee unloved. He saw Hannah in her weeping. He saw Mary carrying the promise of salvation in her womb. When He sees, He restores, He affirms, He gives purpose. And when you, in the smallest of ways, take the time to truly see her, you are echoing the nature of God. You are bearing His image rightly. To stop to her is to resist the culture of consumption. It is to say, you are not here for my pleasure, my distraction, my validation. You are not a category, you are not a type, you are not a label. It is to push back against a world that trains us to swipe left, scroll past, reduce and objectify. It is to say, I choose to see the soul before me. I choose to honor what God has formed, and in doing that, you change. Because seeing her rightly reorders something in you. It awakens a deeper masculinity, not the caricature of dominance, but the strength that serves, the courage that protects, the humility that listens. You become in that moment a bearer of Eden's original design, a man who sees not as the world sees, but as heaven sees, and she notices, even if she doesn't say it, even if the moment is fleeting. Deep down, every woman yearns to be seen rightly, not as a possession, but as a purpose, not as decoration, but as destiny. She may never tell you, but when you stop to her with that kind of reverence, it ministers to something sacred within her. It tells her she is not invisible. It tells her that holiness still exists in the eyes of a man, and whether you speak or not, whether she responds or not, the very act of stopping becomes prophetic. It becomes a declaration that the divine still walks among us, in the form of a soul who bears the beauty and mystery of God's design. So never underestimate what it means to stop. Never treat it as small. Because in that moment something eternal is happening. You are seeing her, and through her you are glimpsing the face of God. For every woman carries a story. Not always told in words, not always written down, but etched into her being, in her eyes, in her silence, in the way she walks through the world. When you stop to her, really stop, not just to say hello or offer a passing smile, but when you bring your full awareness into that moment, something begins to stir. And whether you realize it or not, you are stepping into the presence of a silent story waiting to be heard. She may not say it, she may not trust you with it, but it's there. It's in the way she glances away before speaking. It's in the pause between her words. It's in the strength she carries behind the softness. It's in the armor she's built over time, armor that's become second skin from too many betrayals, too many dismissals, too many times her voice was treated like noise. She has been spoken over, overlooked, idealized, romanticized, or minimized, but rarely fully heard. And yet, when you stop, when you genuinely stop to her, something deep within her spirit leans in, because for a moment she wonders if this is safe ground. Is this the kind of man who listens to understand or listens to respond? Is this the kind of presence that rushes in to fix or waits to truly feel what she's carrying? You see, words are not the only language she speaks. She speaks in silence, she speaks in looks, she speaks in subtle shifts of energy and atmosphere. Her story may not unfold in dramatic lines, but in quiet revelation, if you have the patience, the humility, the honor to notice. Behind every woman is a chapter of strength she never chose to write. Maybe she's survived more than you'll ever know. Maybe she's learned to smile through pain, to nurture others while never being nurtured herself. Maybe she's buried dreams, hidden wounds, and carried burdens passed to her by generations before her. Or maybe she's never been asked, not truly asked, what's your story? Not with curiosity, not with sincerity, and certainly not without an agenda. So when you stop to her, something sacred is at stake. This is not small talk. This is not casual. You are stepping into the space where God has written something precious, something that cannot be rushed or taken lightly, and if you listen, not just with your ears, but with your spirit, you might begin to hear it. You might begin to sense what she doesn't say. You might begin to feel the weight of her journey, not to pity, not to play the rescuer, but to recognize the dignity of what she's endured and who she is becoming. Because what she thinks when you stop to her is not simply about you. It's about whether the world is finally slowing down enough to notice her truth, whether someone will finally honor her story instead of trying to rewrite it for her, whether someone will receive her as a soul, not as a symbol, not as an ornament, not as a stereotype. You don't need to understand everything about her to honor her story. You just need to hold space for it. You just need to know that it exists, even if she never tells you a word, because the story she carries isn't always meant to be told to everyone, but it is meant to be respected by those who come near. And maybe that's the most important thing. She is not asking to be explained, solved, or saved. She's asking to be seen, to be met, to be received in her wholeness, her history, her complexity. So stop. Stop assuming, stop filling silence with your own sound, and begin to listen with reverence, even if all you hear is silence, because in that silence there is a woman holding a sacred scroll, a scroll written by suffering, strength, and the fingerprints of God. And if you treat that story with the awe it deserves, something divine begins to happen. She may never say it out loud, but in that moment of being seen, something inside her breathes again, something buried rises. Something broken mends, and that is what she thinks when you stop to her. She thinks maybe someone is finally listening for the voice behind the silence. And that is no small thing, that is holy, for, oh, stopping isn't just a passive act. It's not the absence of movement or the gap between two moments of action. In the realm of the spirit, stopping is sacred, it is intentional, it is prophetic. When you stop to her, truly stop, you are participating in something far greater than a conversation or a kind gesture. You are aligning yourself with a divine pattern, a rhythm that runs through Scripture and into the very heart of God. The sacred pause is not weak, it is not indecision, it is the deliberate slowing of the soul to make room for something, or someone eternal. In our culture, everything rushes. Our eyes flicker from screen to screen, our words are quick, shallow, rehearsed. We scroll, we swipe, we move on. We've become allergic to waiting, and worse, we've become desensitized to presence. But the sacred things of God don't exist in a hurry. You won't find holiness in the blur, you find it in the pause, the stillness where attention meets reverence, and that's what she needs, that's what she waits for. That's what she thinks about when you stop to her. Is this a pause that carries meaning, or is this just another distraction? When you stop, she sees more than your body standing still. She's measuring the weight of your stillness. Is it empty or is it full? Is it casual or is it consecrated? Does your stopping create space for her, or is it simply a moment of convenience for you? These are the questions that rise in her spirit, even if she can't articulate them. Because she's encountered men who stop without staying, who pause only long enough to take, who seem interested for a moment but vanish just as quickly. But the sacred pause is different. It mirrors the nature of Christ. Think of him walking through crowds, the pressure of people all around him, the demands, the noise, and yet he stops. For the woman who touched the hem of his garment, he stops. For the blind man calling from the roadside, he stops. For the Samaritan woman at the well, he doesn't rush, he lingers. He pauses in a moment that stretches into eternity, and he reveals that love is not measured in movement, but in attention. So when you stop to her, you are stepping into that same sacred pattern. You are declaring with your presence, you are worth the pause. Not the pause that waits for an opportunity, but the pause that gives one. The pause that says, I am not here to move past you. I am here to be with you, even if just for a moment. That is holy ground. And she feels that, she knows the difference, because her soul has been shaped by both the presence and the absence of sacred pauses. She's known what it is to be passed by, spoken to without being seen, touched without being understood. And when a soul chooses to stop, to truly pause with intention, it signals something ancient, it signals dignity, it signals worth, it signals that she is not just another passing moment, but a person worth dwelling with. The sacred pause is where healing begins. It doesn't require perfect words or solutions. It requires presence. It requires patience. It requires you to resist the urge to move on and instead enter into the mystery of another human being. And that's what she hopes for, even if she doesn't expect it. That someone would carry the kind of stillness that doesn't shrink in the face of her depth, but honors it. Stopping to her isn't weakness. It's worship. It's the reverent act of seeing her as God sees her, worthy of time, of presence, of intentionality. It's where the noise of the world falls away and the sacred begins to speak. She may not show it outwardly. She may not respond with equal stillness, but inside something awakens, a wound is acknowledged, a breath is released, a hope is stirred. That's the power of the sacred pause. That's what she thinks when you stop to her. Maybe this time the pause won't end in silence. Maybe this time it will open a door I thought would stay closed forever. And in that moment you have given her a gift far greater than attention. You've given her space to be. And that, more than anything else, is sacred. For when you stop to her, what she thinks isn't always about you. It's not about your looks, your charm, your words, or your timing. What rises in her mind, often unspoken, is a question rooted in a lifetime of battles. Does he see the strength it took to stand here? Because what you see when you stop to her is only the surface. What she carries beneath the surface, that is the real story, and it is made of strength that has gone unseen. We live in a world that celebrates loud strength, the kind that dominates, that shouts, that commands attention. But there is another kind of strength, a quieter, deeper, more enduring strength, a strength that wakes up every day and keeps going despite being overlooked, a strength that holds a broken heart together with dignity, a strength that doesn't get parades or applause, but keeps rising anyway. That is the kind of strength many women carry, and that is what you're standing before when you stop to her. She may be smiling, calm, put together, but beneath that grace is a battle. She's fought for her identity in a world that tried to define it for her. She's fought to speak when others tried to silence her. She's fought to be soft in a world that told her softness is weakness. She's carried others, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, while carrying her own pain in silence. And through it all, she's been expected to remain composed, kind, beautiful, available, strong, but not intimidating, vulnerable, but not needy. It's a tightrope few even recognize she's walking. So when you stop to her, when you offer your attention, your presence, your respect, what she thinks is often shaped by the history of how people have responded to her strength. Has it been seen as a threat? Has it been dismissed as drama? Has it been treated as a challenge to conquer rather than a reality to honor? You may not mean to, but if you look at her only through the lens of how she makes you feel, if you see her only as inspiration or decoration, you miss the entire truth of who she is, because she is not just beautiful, she is resilient. She is not just composed, she is forged. Every layer of grace you see has been earned in the fire. Every soft word she speaks has passed through pain. Every boundary she sets has been built with the bricks of betrayal and wisdom. This strength is not loud, but it is sacred. It does not demand, but it should be reverenced, and here's what matters. When you stop to her with awareness, when your presence speaks, I see more than what the world sees. She notices. Even if she doesn't say a word, even if the moment is brief, she can feel the difference between someone who is curious about her and someone who carries honor for her. That kind of honor doesn't try to impress. It doesn't try to control. It simply says, I see you. I acknowledge what you've carried. I don't need to know every detail to recognize the strength it took to become who you are. And in a world that too often measures her worth by what she offers or how she looks, this acknowledgement is rare. But when it happens, it matters because it speaks to the warrior within her. It validates not just her softness, but her struggle, not just her light, but the storms she's weathered. So know, what she thinks when you stop to her is not always about you. It's about whether her unseen strength will be treated with the honor it deserves, whether someone will look past the packaging and see the soul, whether the effort it took to remain kind, to remain open, to keep showing up in the face of disappointment will finally be acknowledged. When you stop to her with reverence, you help carry her strength, not by fixing her, not by analyzing her, but by seeing her, and that in itself is a kind of healing. That is what she thinks. Maybe he doesn't just see me as strong. Maybe he understands that I became this strong because I had to be, and maybe that means I can finally stop fighting to be seen. And in that moment, even if just for a breath, she feels safe. And safety, for someone who has had to be strong for too long, is everything. For you are not called to impress her. That's not the mission. You're not here to dazzle her with lines, to parade your achievements, or to compete with every version of masculinity you've ever seen advertised or modeled. The calling goes deeper than that. When you stop to her, when you pause with presence and awareness, the call is not to charm her, it is to see her, to truly see her, and that kind of seeing is not just social or emotional, it is prophetic. It pierces through the noise of surface-level interaction and touches something sacred, something eternal. We live in a world obsessed with appearance, one that rewards performance and celebrates the surface. It's a world where attraction is confused with attention and presence is traded for performance. But when you choose to see beyond all of that, to look with intention, to listen without an agenda, you are offering something rare, something radical, something holy, because to truly see her is to recognize what is often invisible to others. It's to notice not just how she looks, but how she carries herself, not just what she says, but what she withholds. Not just the beauty she wears, but the battles she hides. It is to acknowledge her full humanity, not through a lens of projection, but through the lens of honor. To see her is to resist the urge to define her by your own expectations or fantasies. It is to lay down the desire to possess and pick up the call to perceive. It is to recognize that she is not an idea, not a symbol, not a category. She is a person, fearfully and wonderfully made, carrying the breath of God in every fiber of her being. And when you look at her like that, with eyes that reflect truth instead of desire, she knows. She knows because real seeing brings stillness, it brings safety. She can tell when someone looks at her and sees only what they want, what they need, what they hope to gain. She's felt the weight of those gazes before. She's learned how to protect herself from them, how to smile and shield, how to appear open while keeping the door locked. But when someone looks at her and sees her, not her usefulness, not her performance, but her essence, something softens. Something deep in her soul recognizes that maybe, just maybe, she can put the guard down. And what does she think when you see her like this? She thinks, he's not trying to impress me, he's not trying to win me, he's not trying to mold me, he's just seeing me, and that is powerful. Because so much of her life has been spent being looked at but not seen, admired but not understood, pursued but not respected. People have reached for her hand without ever caring for her heart. But when someone stops trying to perform, stops trying to sell himself, and simply bears witness to her reality with reverence, that's when something divine happens. That kind of seeing is not passive. It's active, it requires humility, it requires maturity. It requires you to let go of the desire to be impressive and embrace the calling to be present. It is not about knowing everything about her. It is about showing up in such a way that says, I see you not as a prize, but as a person, not as a project, but as a presence, not as an opportunity, but as a wonder. This is a rare kind of man, a man who sees with his spirit, a man who listens with his heart, a man who has surrendered his ego long enough to see the divine image in another person. And when you stop to her and carry this kind of vision, you don't just honor her, you reflect something eternal. You become in that moment an echo of the God who sees, the God who notices, the God who calls people not by what they look like, but by who they truly are. So no, don't try to impress her. Let the world do that. Let the world chase vanity and charm. You instead are called to see, because in seeing you restore what has been diminished. In seeing, you remind her that she is not invisible. In seeing, you remind yourself of what matters most. And that's what she thinks when you stop to her. Maybe I don't have to perform to be valued. Maybe I don't have to shrink to be accepted. Maybe being seen is enough. And maybe, just maybe, so is the one who sees.